Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today we're back in the garage working on the Countach project. Got a couple things on schedule for today. Finishing up white coating the wing upstairs and finishing the final white primer coating on the engine cover. Then coming back here to the body itself, removing the vents from the car, and then also cutting out the pop-up headlight lids so we can start building those assemblies as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Couple minor flaws right here. We'll get a close-up of that. And there's one here. I was going to go ahead and repatch it, but to be honest, I don't think they're major enough to go through all the work of sanding it and doing all that. Especially since once it's painted and this is back on the car over the engine, you're not even going to see some of this stuff because it's going to be up against the body or near the back window. So let me get a close-up. I'll show you what we're going to do. And then I think I'm just going to go ahead and finish putting the white primer top coat, and then we can move on to the wing.
There's the first one. You can see it down there in that corner. Just looks like the primer may have not gotten in there properly. A little bit of an indentation, but I think we can work around that. Then you can see little spots like that, which once I do the light sanding on the surface before we paint, I think that'll be taken care of. Then there's one here on the other side I want to show you over here. Coming along here on this side, right there in that corner, little indentation there. That's actually going to be up near the back window, so it's going to be seen more like this from the average person. You're not even going to see it. So I think we're just going to let that go as well.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to use some of this Rust-Oleum filler primer, which is actually really good stuff. It's primer, but it has a little bit of filler in it as well. So for small imperfections, when you spray it, it'll fill those. So I'm going to hit these areas with a little bit of that to kind of fill them up a little bit. Also, a couple minor little pinholes in some of the stuff that I'm noticing now. I'm going to hit it with that as well, just to kind of fill those without having to do body work and sanding and all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Then we'll be back to give it the final white coat, and then we'll get the wing in here, do that as well, so we can head back downstairs and start working on the body of the car. Everything was kind of patched up. I went through any little imperfection, hit it with a little bit of that filler primer, letting that dry now, and then we'll come back and then do the final white coat over everything. So letting this dry now, going to head downstairs and start taking off some of the vents. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove these rear vents back here. Let's go ahead and get a close-up of that, and I'll show you what we're going to do to take them off. Now these vents on the real Countach, because you have the radiator back here, so you have a radiator on each side, so the air comes in through this vent, goes through the radiator, and then this is kind of the vent out from the radiator. In this case, because this one is actually just on top of a General Motors K-frame with just basically a Pontiac Fiero underneath, the radiator's in the front. So these vents here are strictly just for the engine compartment to breathe. So what I'm going to do, pull these up this way. Remove that. And you can see what they have here. The company that made these, they pretty much just put three holes here just for breathing. I'm going to cut these out completely like the real Countach and actually put some duct work in there going to the engine compartment, so that way it has more of a purpose to it. So for now, we're just taking these off as we prep for paint, but when we put the car back together, when it's done, this is going to all be cut out properly with duct work going through, so that way when you have the engine fans, which are back here, blowing down on the engine, this will be the outtake there for the hot air to have an escape outside of these three little holes. All right, all of the white top coat primer has been applied to everything. Everything looks great. Brought the wing in here. Have a little bit of sanding to do here along this edge. I didn't realize it. There's a little bit, when I used the epoxy to put these on, a little bit it oozed over. So I'm going to sand that down, and then we're going to go ahead and prime this white, and then that takes care of all these components.
Here's the wing. You can see there where the epoxy oozed out. It looks pretty bad. So we're going to sand that flat and then go ahead and reprime it.
Okay, so this has all been sanded down. It's nice and smooth. I'm going to go ahead and
clean this off real good, wipe it down, and then we're going to go ahead and hit it with some primer. And then we'll go ahead and prime this whole wing with the white, and that should wrap that up. There we go. Sanded it down, gave a light coat of the filler primer. It's nice and smooth. So we're going to let that dry, and then we'll go ahead and put the white top coat primer over that. Went ahead and put the white primer coating over the whole wing. However, as you can see right here, on both of the supports, that one there and that one down there, and let's head down there. You can see it there, there's cracks. There's also some flaws here, which I missed when I did the gray primer filler. I did not notice those. So that being said, we're going to have to come back and touch those up and then redo the white primer. That'll be at another time though.
Getting ready to take these side vents off. This one here is fairly easy. I'm going to have to remove the rear tire. Back here, take the liner out from the wheel well so I can get to it, and that one comes out. I think I can get to this one as well. This one here is kind of interesting because it looks like they chemically welded with some kind of a epoxy or something this vent to the body, so it's not screwed in like the real one is. So I may try to just break that free, or I'll just have to mask around it when I do the painting and then just work around it. I don't know, we'll see. But for now, we're going to take this back tire off. I have to do it on both sides, and then we're going to go ahead and remove these two vents here so that way we can get those out. Only problem with these wide rims, you can't get a regular tire iron in there to get those off, so I got to use an extension on a breaker bar to get all the way in there to those lug nuts. All right, let's jack it up. Liner, it's a pain in the neck to get out. You can see right here, because of the former owner putting a tire that's got too wide of a ratio to it, the tire's too fat this way, it's rubbing here on this liner. You can see the metal support on the back of it coming through right here. So I'm probably going to have to redo that, because once I redo the tires, I'm going to put the right size tires on. They're supposed to be a little bit wider and more of a lower profile. So that'll bring them in a little bit this way and wider out that way, and that'll take care of that issue right there. But I don't even know how that happened, because there's still about an inch of clearance, so I don't know, maybe something got stuck in there one time driving it and rubbed up against that. But anyway, either way, this needs to be replaced when I do the suspension. One more bolt or screw or whatever it is up here. This thing should come out. It's missing the back end of the liner that wraps this way. On the other side, it's got it. It's missing it on this side, but since I'm going to redo that whole liner, it doesn't really matter. Let's see what we got. One more here. Can't wait to jump into the suspension soon, because I see a lot of problems back here. Bad ball joints, control arms, tie rods. I don't even know how the front axles are. One of them looks like it could be bent, but we'll check when we get into that. There we go.
Here's the gas tank filler hose or whatever right here where you fill it. See, there's a crack right there. That explains why sometimes when I put gas it drips through. So look at this thing. What a piece of junk. Somebody tried to fix it and made a mess out of it, because here's the actual line going down to the gas tank. So when I do the suspension, I have all this apart. I'm going to replace all that. And then you can see in here, there's your air intake here coming from the side right here. Coming in right there. So I don't know how I can remove that, the vent, because it looks like it's connected there. And then you have all of this going back in here, and then all these wires go into the stereo where you have some of the, I don't know the actual terminology for it, but where the speakers and the amp and stuff all connect, because they're all mounted down underneath a panel on the side of the seats. So definitely pretty filthy in here as well, so that's going to all be cleaned out with the suspension. And then looking right down here, you'll see those solid steel plates welded together. That's pretty much a wall on the side of the driver's seat. There's also one on the other side, on the side of the passenger seat. That way, in the case of an accident or anything, it's almost like a metal welded box or cage there around the driver and the passenger because of the car being so low. All right, for this one here, there's actually a nut on the inside which I was able to loosen, so we can then get that off. So I'm going to go ahead and take this vent off, and then I'm going to try to work on this one up here, and we'll be right back. All this junk. Gotta pull it. All right, so we got that off. Should come out now. Or does it go the other way? Okay, I guess it goes this way. Something here. There we go. All right, one vent down. Let's move on to the one up here. And then I think we'll put the tire back on, drop it, and move on to the other side. That is the vent near the door handle. You can see there they have it pretty much puttied in with some kind of cement. So it won't be able to be screwed out. I'm just going to have to break it out because I don't want to leave that in there. I want to be able to take it out, clean it, refinish it, and then I can always chemically weld it back in. What I had to do is I had to take a hammer and a chisel and basically just crack that cement that was on there so I could loosen this vent. Should be able to pull it down. And here we go. Good. Good. All right, so now let's move on. I'm going to put the tire back on, move on to the other side, do the same thing, and then we'll be right back. That's where the vent was, and interestingly enough, underneath the cement that's there on the body, it looks like spiders had a field day there with a nest. There's tons of dead spiders in there and a lot of webbing. Also on the vent itself, I'll show you. Here's the metal tab that was in the cement there on the body. You can see all those spiders on there. Thus the result of a car that was neglected and left out in the field for a few years for rodents and everything else to make a home there. So that's why we're going through this long process of tearing it all apart and restoring it so we can make it look presentable again. All the vents have finally been removed. Got them all down here where they will be going upstairs with the other vents, and then at a later time they will be cleaned off real good and then refinished in a kind of a satin semi-gloss black, which is what the Countach normally has for the vents. All right, now that I went ahead and removed all the vents, all that's done finally, we're going to move on to these headlights right here. I'm going to go ahead and get an oscillating power tool. We're going to cut these out. I was kind of going back and forth whether or not I wanted to put the pop-up headlights or not.
They can be problematic when the motors go. However, that's one of the iconic things about the Countach, which adds to the look, is when the lights are out, and that's just part of their design. So in order to keep it original, I'm going to go ahead and put those in. I went ahead and priced it out if I were going to replace it with the actual assemblies, the Italian bulbs, the Fiat motors, all the things that the original Countach had. You're looking at about $3,000 to $4,000 per assembly, which is ridiculous. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make these from scratch. I got the actual diagram, blueprint diagrams that Lamborghini had when the Countach came out, showing how they go together, the parts, the components, how they go. So I have that, and I understand how they work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make my own assemblies to scale and to the accurate detailing of the original Countach, like the Italian one had. It's going to be made out of aluminum, and I'm going to go ahead for the motor is probably just go with either a Dodge or a Mitsubishi motor. They can be used as well. Or I may go with the Fiat motor. I'm still pricing that out. But basically, I went ahead and I calculated just a budgetary cost on all the components and using American light bulbs like Sylvania or just a brand like that instead of the actual Italian ones. I could probably make each assembly with the bracket and everything, the motors and all, for about $100 per assembly, which is a lot better than $3 to $4 grand. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. While the car is sitting for the winter after we prime it, and I'm waiting for the springtime so we can paint it and clear coat it, I'll work on building the assemblies and the brackets, installing the motors, getting that all wired up so everything opens and closes properly, and then we'll also work on the suspension and tuning the engine a little bit to get the idling right. And that way, when spring comes, we'll paint it, clear coat it, and the car's done. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out, and we'll be right back. Both covers have been cut out. Everything went well. All I need to do now is just sand all along in here, make that nice and smooth, nice and rounded nicely. Also on the lids, do the same thing, finish those nice. However, after cutting this out, one of the things that I was a little thrown off by is that there's part of the tubular frame coming here on each side, which is cutting right in the path of where the lights would have to go. In order for the assemblies to fall down in there, I'm going to have to probably cut that and re-weld it at a different angle. Well, let's get a close-up and I'll show you. Here's the frame here. That piece there, get the air horn and all that in here. I can move all of those out of the way, but I think I'm going to have to come in here. And the metal was already cut here at some point. I don't know why. I don't know, whoever made it was maybe thinking about putting the headlight. I don't know, but I'm going to trim this back a little bit more, probably have to cut this part of the frame here and then down further in there and maybe make it more of an L instead of an angle, have it cut down and over to kind of buy me that space to where the assembly can then tuck in and pull out as needed. So for now, we got this done. That was the goal. Now I need to kind of strategize and design how this needs to be modified. I need to create like a cardboard, three-dimensional mock-up of the assembly that I can lay in there and see how it's going to fit before I go ahead and actually put the mounting bracket up in here, build the assembly, cut all of this out as needed, get that all situated. The air horn, trumpets, which are just laying in here now, they need to be mounted properly too. So once all that's done, then I can organize in this space here the compressor, the canister here for the overflow from the radiator. All that needs to be mounted properly. They're just laying in here right now. So once I clean all this out, get everything situated, get the assemblies in there, get the motors mounted in there, and I think we'll be good to go with that. All right, well that pretty much wraps up our time here in the garage working on this. I was going to cut out the openings on these two rear vents. However, my oscillating tool burned up, so I need to get another one. We'll finish that at another time. So everything that I wanted to get completed did get completed. The vents were taken off, the headlights were cut out. We went ahead and finished white top coat priming all the components upstairs with the doors, the hood, engine bay cover, and the wing. So that wraps up this time here in the garage. I hope this video was informative and enjoyable for you. Please send me any questions, any comments. I would love to hear from you. As always, I appreciate all the support. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time.